At the very interesting chart of Billy Graham, born November 7th, 1918, at 15:30 hours in Charlotte, North Carolina. And when he was born, if you look to the eastern horizon, you see the constellation of Pisces rising at 11 degrees and 47 seconds. This becomes the most effective point of every house. We're going to look at how the planets are operating. We know that if there is any multicorna sign, 1, 4, 5, 7, and 9 or 11, in the 6th, 8th, or the 12th house, its ruler becomes functional malefic. So we see Leo in the 6th house ruled by Sun. Sun becomes functional malefic. We see the 7th sign, Libra, ruled by Venus, in the 8th house. That Venus becomes functional malefic. We see the 11th sign, Aquarius, ruled by Saturn. Saturn becomes functional malefic. All the other planets, Jupiter, Moon, Mars, Mercury, and Sun, become functional benefic planets. So, except for Rahu and Ketu, which are functionally malefic for every sign. So now let's look at how these planets are operating. We know that Pisces is a dual water sign. These people are primarily Kapha Pitta. And so he, very emotional speaker. So let's look at Sun. Sun is at 21 degrees. We know it's a functional malefic planet. Now it is not close to the rising sign degree. It aspects 7 houses away, so it's not actually causing any issues in this chart, except because it rules the house of health and it is in this 8th house, which has to do with prostrate issues. It does have some influence there. Now, Sun means leader, and it is again ruling this 6th house of health and conflict, and it is in this house of spiritual research. So it gives him ability to lead in the masses in spiritual knowledge. Moon is at 6 degrees. It rules this 5th house of children, investments, and education, and it is in the house of career. So it is conjunct Mars, and so it gives him the ability as an educator to again lead the masses, the public. Moon means public. So Mars is at 4 degrees, rules the 2nd house of fame and wealth and continuation of the marital bond, and it is located in the 10th house, again conjunct Moon. So it gives him courage and fame through the 2nd house of persuasive speech to lead the masses again. Mercury is at 5 degrees, rules the 7th house of partnerships, and it is in the 9th house of teaching spirituality. And Mercury itself means publishing, writing, speaking. So it gives speaking and ability to speak and publish spiritual knowledge. Jupiter is at 23 degrees. It's very strong and well placed. It rules the 10th house of career, and it is in the 4th house of happiness through home life. And so it gives career through teaching spirituality. Jupiter itself is teaching, and he had a very strong family life as well. He lived in the same house for like 50 years and had 5 children. Very, very good children. Venus is at 17 degrees. Again, it's functional malefic, but it's in its own sign, which gives it some power. And it's not afflicting any house. It's at 17 degrees, which is not within 5 degrees of the most effective point. So it is also benign. Venus itself is performing arts and fine arts, and it's ruling this house of spiritual research. So gives him the ability to, again, publish and perform spiritual knowledge and research. It's a conjunct Sun, again, giving that leadership quality. Saturn is at 4 degrees, and it's just slightly weak, and it rules the house of spirituality, and it is in the 6th house of health and conflict and service. This is the house of service. So it gives service, the ability to lead the masses, ability to serve others, strong ability. And Rahu and Ketu are in the house of spiritual teaching and self-expression, entrepreneurial success, and so it gives him the strong desire to teach spirituality and insights into expressing himself through spirituality. So it gives K2 is that planet of or spiritual south node of the moon that gives a spiritual aspect to his self-expression. So let's look at when the planets are operating. When he was born into a K2 period, which gives him the spiritual strength throughout his life. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's in, I think, 1978. Parkinson's is associated with Mercury, the nervous system, and that was a Mercury period that he was in. He died, actually it's today, February 21st, 1918, during a Saturn-Jupiter period. Saturn is the house of death, and we see Mercury was and Sun were transiting this 12th house of death. As I said before, he had prostate cancer, Sun health in this house of prostate issues. He broke his hip in 2004 during a Jupiter-Saturn period. Saturn is bones, Jupiter has to do with hip. Let's look at, what would be the remedies for his chart. Well, the remedies are chants and charities to transform Sun, Venus, and Saturn, and helping other people. And that's what he did throughout his life. So helping other people's in charities, and so strengthening his weak planets. Let's see, any weak planet. So Mars just slightly weak because it's less than 5 degrees in infant state. So strengthening Mars with a red coral ring or pendant would have been good. But very, very. He was said to be spoke to the most amount of people in his lifetime, more than any individual on the planet, and wrote about 25 books. He was a very prolific writer. Had a really strong influence over 4 presidents. So very, very our condolences to his family. Yeah, very, very influential person.